Hey guys, it's Mountain Walk, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about Legacy in the ban list and Survival of the Fittest. That's right, I know this one is probably something I've wanted to do for a while. I wanted to look at Survival again, see how this archetypal, wait, hang on, that's not the word I'm looking for. Anyways, it's like a famous deck in Legacy, right? And just in Magic in general. His things have always been pretty strong. Uh, varying power levels. Sometimes just good, sometimes underwhelming, sometimes sweet. Um, and yeah, we're gonna look at this and see how this stacks up against current legacy stuff and just how it operates in general. And so let's get to it. Let's get talking about survival of the fittest. All right. So this is in my opinion, this is definitely the kind of card that's pretty interesting, pretty exciting to talk about because it's just about the right power level for talking about like a perspective on banning, because obviously it was very strong back in the day, 2010, circa 2010, 2009, 2010, and yeah, so it's pretty cool, pretty sweet. Um, and sometimes the survival decks actually before then were basically non-existent for the most part. Like they were kind of like interesting brews, but they were not really that disruptive. They're pretty slow, pretty dirtily, and so that was kind of a problem. But once World Wake and Rise of the Eldrazi and the whole just the Zendikar block in general came out, we got a whole bunch of really cool stuff. We got all of the Vengevine stuff, obviously, and that's really what pushed the deck over the edge. So that's pretty cool. Um, and so that's kind of like this sort of era is the one where I drew most of my inspiration from. I mean, sure, ATS and stuff is really cool, Angry Trade Survival, but that's not really going to be relevant to talk about. I mean, it's sweet, it's fun, but that's not why the deck was banned, clearly. Um, and the deck's gotten some new stuff, obviously, tons and tons of new hate bears. And the deck can play pretty much, three colors pretty easily. So that's kind of nice. So you can splash for a fourth off of like birds or something, pretty good. And it's kind of like a mid-rangey combo-y deck thing. That's so like think of like you got some like hate bear stuff like death and taxes, and then maybe sometimes you can go wastelandy like Maverick or whatever with some Neither Reliquaries or whatever. Like all sorts of different things you can do. Lots of good stuff. Scavenging Ooze, that's a good one. All sorts of new interesting cards. So there's a lot of ways to take this deck, but we're gonna be focusing mostly upon the Vengevine thing. So let's go ahead and look at that. All right, so here we go. Again, most of the stuff you should probably be pretty familiar with. Um, Mana base again, pretty green heavy because you really want all your lands to produce green, so you can activate survival as many times as you can. And then in your spells, of course, we have survival, and then enlighten tutor to help finding survival, and then duress and thoughtseize as sort of to slow your opponent down, disrupt them until you can land something turn two. Like a Thalia, of course, be really good against combo decks, stuff like Kitesail Freebooter, Gaddock Teague. Those are pretty good against the combo decks or control decks, slowing them down. Stuff like Big Game Hunter is pretty sweet against Emrakul and Gristlebrand. And you have like your Mana Dorks, Birds, Hierarch, Basking Root Wall, of course, because you want to pitch it to your survival. Don't have a squee in here, mostly because I figure like we have enough stuff we really want to discard. So I think it's probably fine. I mean, it's not too hard to like cut a root waller for a squee if that would work out better, but it's not a big deal. Rex Sage, of course, really nice, cheap way to kill artifacts and enchantments. Pretty wonderful. Kind of weird how long it took for that kind of card to get printed, but no biggie. Wonder to give your guys evasion, obviously. The Vengevines, and of course, Hollow One. Hollow One's pretty sweet. This is a very new card, and this fits really well into this deck. I took some inspiration from the Survival of the Fittest decks in Vintage. Obviously, those are completely different beasts. With they have Moxen, as well as Bazaar, of course, and they can even play Deathrite Shaman, so that's kind of nice. But Hollow One's pretty good in those decks. Obviously, you're discarding a bunch of stuff, discarding your Root Wallas, and then pumping out like friggin' Vengevines and stuff. So that's kind of cool. And speaking of having a bunch of dudes in play, I'm thinking about one or two Cradles might be kind of nice too. To be able to pump all your Root Wallas or hardcast your Vengevines or Hollow Ones if you have to. That might be kind of nice. But yeah, that's basically the plan is uh, discard Root Wallas and then pump out Vengevines. Uh, Pretty much, yeah. And then swing in with hasty flying Vengevines. Yeah, so that's basically the plan. There are a couple. There's another different way to take this. We'll talk about that in just a sec. And then we're looking at the sideboard. Of course, we got a bunch of 1-0s to search for off survival, more combo hate, stuff like that. Revoker, Canonist, Macabre against graveyard decks, all that kind of good stuff. Genesis. Um, Genesis back fairy Macabre is pretty sweet. Then we got Plague Engineer, of course. Might want more of those. Force, Mindbreak Trap against all sorts of ridiculous stuff. More stuff like Duress. Duress, of course, more discard against combo decks. Then we have Crypts and Ground Seals against like stuff like Surgical Extraction, Extraction on us. Or Torment's Crypt is good against Reanimators. Or, excuse me, Ground Seal is good against Reanimators as well, because they have to target their guys with certain cards let them target their graveyard. So anything that's not Exhume, basically. Yep. But you can pretty much, sideboard's pretty much up for grabs. You can play all sorts of stuff. All right. So, thing that should be noted is that this deck is a lot worse now, actually. Back when it was around, we didn't really have like the super turbo like non-storm combo decks. So things like Sneak and Show, a Reanimator, and the Depths decks. So that's kind of a problem now because there's really not a lot of ways to interact with them game one. So you're already on the back foot game two, and trying to tutor up stuff obviously takes forever. Seeing as how reanimators like turn one Gristlebrain go, if you don't have like force or surgical extraction or whatnot, like you're gonna be having a bad time. And even if you do, it could just get unmasked and then they do it anyways. Or it's like Writ, Duress, Entomb, Reanimate, Gristlebrand, and then go from there, right? Like so, not a lot of things you can do about that. But there are a lot of different ways to build the deck. There are a lot of moving parts. I mentioned before, you can take the combo in a different way. You can play like the Necrotic Ooze combo with Triskelion or Walking Ballista, whatever you prefer. Probably Ballista because it's a little better. You can actually like play it normally. And then of course, you have Phyrexian Devourer, and so you can make like really, really big Necrotic Ooze and then get all the counters from that, and then remove them with Triskelion to kill your opponent or whatever. So that's kind of cool. And it does take up more space, and it is, more cards. So it's, I guess, better in some respects, but it's a lot slower than the other combo decks, and it might just be a little too cute these days. Actually, yeah. But the new Mulligan rules also complicate things because this deck is very reliant upon survival resolving. So you really need to get your survival. So either like turn one Enlightened Tutoring or just mulling for it. So yeah, you really want that turn two survival. That's pretty important. Because without it, the deck just doesn't do much. Doesn't do much at all. And that's a problem too. Because you can't be dirtling around in current Legacy. So yeah, and that's the other problem. There's more disruption now, Spell Pierce, Force Negation, and stuff, and that makes it even harder to resolve your survival. So that's not good. So it's hard to say, like, because this deck obviously was pretty powerful, and the Vengevine spam was obviously a pretty good tactic, back in the day. Pretty good strategy, really. So I don't know, like, would I unban it? I mean, wait, Vengevine spam? Why does that sound familiar? It's like, wasn't there another deck that spammed Vengevines? Wait. Hang on. Wait. Oh shit. Oh shit, I forgot. There was another deck that spammed Vengevines. And it's already legal. And it already puts like fucking 16 power into play on turn 2 without having to rely upon one card. That's so weird. Hmm. That's strange. Huh. I didn't know that. Yeah, that's crazy. Huh. Well shit. Well I guess I feel kinda silly. Yeah, that's right. Fucking Hogak. This fucking deck. This fucking deck, which is just like, A, it can do grindy mid-range stuff. It can do cute stuff like Carrion Feeder plus Grave Crawler, and just get a huge Carrion Feeder and just feed it all sorts of shit. Feed your Blood Gas, feed your fucking Grave Crawlers and shit. Feed it your old crabs. Feed it whatever you want. Feed it your Stitcher Suppliers. Or you could just, get like a turn 2 Hogak or whatever and have like 12 power in play or something. I mean, stuff like that. You also have a combo in Altar of Dementia where it's another sack outlet to prevent your guys from getting exiled by Swords to Plowshares or Path or whatever. Or again, I guess it's even defense against Krakus. You can sack your Hogak to Altar Dementia to alter yourself and then recast it. Yeah. So this deck, it's like it does what the survival deck does, but it does it faster, a lot faster. It doesn't isn't reliant upon one spell resolving. It mulls really well. I mean, it's less vulnerable to disruption. I mean, we've already seen, like, I don't need to link anything. Everyone knows how ridiculous and resilient this deck was against like graveyard hate. So that's not even like the best thing about it. I mean, the this actually has a lot in common with the survival decks because it also has problems with the faster combo decks because there's not much you can do against like 2020 merit lages and stuff like those just basically happen. Your disruption just doesn't hit it. Either your any of your therapies or thought seizes or whatever your abrupt decays, any of that crap. So that's a big deal. Um, or any of the Gristlebrand based decks, that's a big problem too because they can just fly over you and beat you down. They can also just Emrakul you and you just die. So that sucks. So yeah, so it has pretty much some of the same weaknesses against the faster combo decks, but it just raffle stomps all the blue decks like super easy, and the deck's really easy to play, like which is also another thing that it has over the survival decks, where survival decks you have all these different options or whatever. And it's not slow and dirtily either. So I mean, like I said, turn 2, turn 3 Hogak pretty consistently, pretty easily. So yeah. If I'm thinking like, I don't understand like how is this legal and then survival's banned, right? Like I mean, it seems a little silly. 'Cause this is the better Vengevine deck by far. You don't have to dirtle. You don't have to spend a million mana to get like 2 4 3s or whatever. You can just get them for free. You just play like your fetch lands into your Blood Gas and your Hedron Crab. Like Hedron Crab is so good in this deck. Thing's like a 1 mana survival. It just draws you a million cards. Yeah, and then of course, like you have your combo kill, which actually has utility against like removal spells and stuff like that. Even when you're not comboing out, and you can use it to mill yourself. And then obviously once you mill yourself enough bridges in the graveyard, you can go off with Hogak. So yeah, yep. So that's pretty much it. I mean, yeah, I don't know. It doesn't really make a lot of sense why survival's banned because this deck is like survival but not bad. Survival's just too slow, too dirtily, and it has intractable problems that it won't ever be able to fix just due to the nature of the deck itself. It has a very big hole, big chink in its armor, which was combo, and it was true even back in the day, whether it was Ant or TES or whatever. So yeah. So I guess you should just play Hogak, really. I want to play Survival, but I guess I'll just probably play Hogak. You get to play Hedron Crab. That card's fucking sweet. So that's it. I don't know. Unbanned Survival. It's kind of a joke, really. But But anyways, thanks for stopping by, guys. I hope you enjoyed this. I had fun making this. Always have lots of fun. So I don't know, start casting Heejin crabs. So thanks for stopping by and have a great day.